I'm Diane Manuel with Urban Wealth Management, and welcome to our monthly Smart Women Savvy Money webinar. Thank you so much for downloading this webinar and listening to it, and please feel free to share this webinar and all of our information with your family and friends. I'm going to take a second and walk you through Urban Wealth Management for all of you who don't know who we are. Urban Wealth Management is a full-service financial advisory firm. We do financial planning, we do investment management, and we also do insurance management. So you can see from our website some of the types of people we work with. We work with super busy professionals, folks going through life changes. Women especially is a big part of our business. So feel free to pop through our website and see all the different things we have to offer and get to know us a little bit. You'll also find blogs written by me, my colleagues, our guest bloggers, which are usually our webinar guests. So please feel free to pop into there. Also, we have videos that you can download and get some information from. They're usually super short, and we should do them more often, but please feel free to pop in to check out our videos. And finally, I would love for you to take a look at our events section. Every month we do a webinar. Today we're going to talk about interviewing skills and how to set yourself up for the best possible interview. But in the coming months, in April, we'll have Perfect Your Pitch with Mimi Donaldson. She's great and she's awesome, and she really is great with women, helping them make pitches. So I don't care if you're on stage, you're making a pitch to your boss, or you're making a pitch to your kids or your partner, or your best friend. Doesn't matter. There's a strategy to do that, and she's really good about helping women feel comfortable in that space. And then in June, we're going to have our tech diva back, Zenobia Millet, and she is awesome, and she always has good information about tech and how to manage it. You know, sometimes it's just super overwhelming. A little bit about me. I'm a financial advisor and a certified financial planner. I previously worked at Merrill Lynch, and now I'm here at Urban Wealth Management. And my goal is really a mission to help as many women, especially as possible, have clarity and confidence about their money and their wealth. I want to help as many people as possible get on their road, know where they're going, and put strategies and habits and behaviors in place to help them get there. Many of you all are longtime listeners and friends of Urban Wealth Management and part of our community. We want to thank you for that. And if you are new to us, please come back and visit our website frequently. We also have a Facebook private group, Smart Women Savvy Money, so please feel free to drop in there also. So with no further ado, I'm going to transfer this podcast over to our speaker for the day, Yasmeen Muqtasid, and I'm sorry if I messed that up. She has this great information on how to be a rock star, basically, during your next interview. I love the title, which is Bring Magic and Sparkle to Your Interview. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to leave your interview with your interviewee wanting more from you. And Yasmeen is going to tell us today how to make that happen. So Yasmeen, I think I've transferred the presentation over to you. Cool.
Awesome.
There we go.
Thank you, Diane.
Technology works.
Yeah. I'm super excited to be a part of this opportunity and this podcast. I do hear a little bit of echo, so I just want to check in with you just to make sure everything's okay.
I'm good over here, and I'm trying to move. Can you move that? Is that your screen where you have the dialog box open? Can you move that?
Yeah. Should we close that?
Just, you can minimize it.
Or minimize it. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm super excited, and I'm really excited because we have a shared mission and vision, as you stated, Diane, in enriching the lives of women and seeing them through success, particularly career success as well. And so I'm delighted to be in the company of all of the other amazing women that you shared about who are going to be doing upcoming webinars for urban wealth management. So I know we're in 2020. It's a milestone year and decade, and a lot of women are looking at the future and trying to figure out, where do I go from here? And for some women, that might mean a pivotal move in their career and moving forward. And so what we thought would be helpful is to share some different best practices and some different tips and advice, very high level, that can help you make it to the final round in these competitive interview processes. So that's a little bit of what I'll be doing a kind of deeper dive into. So how to add some magic and sparkle to every interview that you touch. So let's dig right in. So some of the key learnings that our audience will take away from hopefully this talk is what it means to pre-wire your interview. We'll dive into that, and I'll give you some details about what that looks like. And then leveling up your presentation. So in 2020, it's time to level it up, in the words of Sierra, and make sure that your presentation isn't just ho-hum, but really going deeper and sharing a bigger, broader picture of who you are and what your strengths and your talents are. And then how to tell your story. It's such a pivotal piece of providing connection between you and the hiring panel. And so what does that look like for you to tell your story, to share who you are with that hiring manager, and to leave that feeling that, yes, that's the person that I want to join our team. And then also we'll talk about how to control the interview and how that really is an interplay off of how to tell your story, so that you're not reacting to the interviewee, you're responding, and so you're being proactive in the interview, and you're in the driver's seat, and you'll see the difference and the outcome in that. And then understanding what the hiring manager actually really is looking for and what they want. We'll dive into that. And then finally, how to close the deal and seal the deal, and what that means to close your interview. So looking at pre-wiring. Pre-wiring is a term that I use to talk about how you're going to kind of soften the beach and create a cold call situation to becoming a warm call situation. So taking a cold interview and creating a warm interview setting so that when you walk into that interview, there's already some buzz, some positive aura around your name when you come into that interview process. And it takes a little bit of work, but the payoff is great reward. And so it is going to be your GPS plan to that interview. And some of the ways that you can hotwire your interview is you're going to warm it up, right? You need to have some contact and some conversations before you get in front of that hiring manager and that panel. And one of the ways to do that is the first person that might call you, and that's the recruiter, right? So that first line of communication with that human resources representative. And they can be such a pivotal key stakeholder for you to have a good kind of warm relationship with, because their word is trusted by that hiring manager when they're recommending you. And they want to make sure that they're giving really good candidates to that hiring panel. And so the more that you can do to connect with that recruiter, to ask really good, engaging questions will go a long way. And some of the ways that you can do that is you can actually ask the recruiter, you know, is there anyone in the position or in the department that I could speak with prior to the interview? You just have a few additional questions that you'd love to get some insight from. And that really is very, I think it shows a level of insight and confidence and a level of just depth that not everyone would be willing to ask for. So utilize that, leverage that to your advantage. And then what you're doing is you're then creating another point of contact for you in that role. So let's say it's someone else in the department. Get that person's name and number, reach out to them, ask them if they have 10 minutes to just share with you what it's like to work in the department. What are some of the goals? What's the culture like? And you would be surprised, most people will give you 10 minutes. But that 10 minutes can go a long way. And the reason you're doing that is because you are also creating a buzz about who you are. And so what that's going to allow you to do is to also kind of name drop and to share with that hiring panel when you walk into that interview, oh, you know what? I spoke with Diane, and here's what she shared with me that I found really interesting about that initiative that you all are working on. And so it shows a certain level of sophistication and that you would be able to connect and to collaborate with people already in that division and department. And you're not even an employee, but this is what you're doing, and that's how you approach a situation. So as many people as you can connect with within reason. Obviously, you don't want to do this to the point where it might be annoying, but to the point where it makes strategic sense and it's creating that buzz and that warm reception for you. So when you walk into that call, you have something else of added value when it comes to the work that you've done that's a little bit different to help you stand out amongst all the other candidates. And let that hiring manager know who you did, in fact, speak with. So that's what we mean by pre-wiring. It's taking a cold situation and making it warm for yourself. And then about leveling up your presentation. So this is both kind of in the basics, so the fundamentals of, you know, obviously your cover letter and your resume. But even there, you know, starting with the cover letter, this is an area that sometimes folks get a little bit complacent with, and they just write a traditional kind of corporate ho-hum letter with no personality, you know, and you really want to take a step back, look at the position, and I always say write the cover letter in the voice of your own voice. And so how you would be speaking with a friend, you know, have some personality in that cover letter. Have it have a tone that's positive and upbeat. Take out some of that, you know, corporate jargon of, I think I would be an asset to your team. Don't tell me, but show me what you've done. Take a couple of highlights from your career that you want to highlight in that cover letter and leave it like a carrot dangling so that when they read that cover letter, they're like, yes, this is a woman I want to meet in person. So it's keeping it tight, keeping it brief, but keeping it alluring so that they want to meet and have a conversation with you. And that's really just something to kind of make yourself stand out and to be distinct from a lot of folks who don't take the time to really focus in on that cover letter. And then secondly, I would say your resume, you know, have several different eyes on that resume. A lot of times if we've had a resume, particularly for a long time, it can get stale, you know, and so share it with some other colleagues in your industry, even outside of your industry, to kind of find out, are people doing anything different with their resumes? Is there a different way that you could structure and highlight some of your successes, your wins? Different people have different ways of describing things as well. Are you overcompensating in one area but not explaining another area that's not very specific. So having just a second pair of eyes, a third pair of eyes, if you have someone who's in human resources, that's always a help too, you know, because they're staying on top of trends and things that they're seeing. But really look at that resume and do an audit. You should be doing an audit of your resume every time you're looking for a new job. You know, and you want to go beyond the basics. So this is in tandem with leveling up your cover letter and your resume, but this is something new that I wanted to share with you all, and it's more in the last few years, and it's a 30-60-90 plan, but something new for 2020. And for those of you that are not familiar with the 30-60-90 plan, it's really an addendum to your resume, and it's sharing in that interview, you know, what you would do in your first 30 days. So think about the president. When the new president comes in, they have all these promises of what they're going to do in their first 30 days, their first 60 days, and their first 90 days. And so you coming into this role, creating that energy and that vision for what you think is most important to accomplish in those first 90 days. It's a really sophisticated way to show that you put some thought into the role, that you understand how to prioritize your time in that critical period where you are meeting new stakeholders internally and externally, showing what you would do. And it doesn't have to be extensive, but it should give enough information to know, okay, we can put this person in this position immediately and they know where to go. They've already got a good sense of internal guidance as to what's most important to really nail it in this position. So in terms of templates and how that might look, there's a lot of great tools online that you can utilize for 30-60-90, whether it's a traditional PowerPoint, or you can get a little fancy with some different templates and designs for that. Looking on, you know, there's some different applications that you can use, like canva.com, which is one that I really like. It gives a very nice graphic design feel to things, and you don't have to be a graphic designer, which is great because many of us are not. But it's a really slick and polished way to do a 30-60-90 and to present that to the hiring panel. And you want to leave that behind with your resume. In addition to this, another added kind of complementary piece that you can think about, and it really depends on your industry. So understanding what your industry is, for example, in sales and marketing, media, communications, a brag book might be something more of a staple and more popular. But I have seen this in other industries as well, and it really just kind of depends, and you've got to be the best gauge of that. But a brag book is a high-level summary, really highlighting and spotlighting some of your career accolades throughout your tenure. And so you might show different awards that you have gotten. You might share any type of press or print articles, blogs, webinars. It could even be just a link or a hyperlink to maybe something that you've written about in your industry, or maybe you were quoted for an article or some news piece, something related to your industry. It could also be performance reviews or an email that an executive gave you, a recommendation or some sort that someone has given you from a very authoritative person that would go a long way. So basically like an endorsement. Letters of recommendations are always good to include. Any type of recent trainings maybe that you've attended that would be applicable to the job that you're applying for would all be a part of this brag book. And you want to do it in a fine balance. So you don't want to have too much, but you want to have enough to give kind of a 360 picture of who you are and that you're a rock star, right? And the ways that you could do this as well, it could be a spiral bound kind of leave behind, or it could be a PDF that you pull up on your iPad or your tablet or something, and you just kind of walk through it, and it's something that you could offer to email to them as a follow-up. So really gauging, the flow of the conversation and also what would make sense in that situation. So think about, if you haven't done a brag book, how you might do that. And then you might be saying, well, Yasmeen, I don't even know where to start. One of the things that you can begin to do, and that I have done, is you can create your own personal folder in your email, let's say, your personal email, if you've got a Gmail account. I've got a folder, and I just say portfolio. And anytime I get some congratulations from a high-level executive or client or any type of accolade, I forward that into my personal portfolio folder. So then you always have some things that you can pull from in creating and curating a really great snapshot of your career success. So that's a great ongoing way to create your brag book. And then telling your story is so important, and something that you really need to take the time to think about, reflect on, and then also practice. And this is so essential, especially when you are going through your resume and when someone asks, tell us about yourself. And it's always such a general question, and sometimes folks struggle with what do I say? I could tell you a million different things. And so that's where you really need to figure out your pitch for yourself in this moment. And so practicing telling your career path. This is also a way that you can control that narrative, so that you can also address, maybe there's some things, maybe you got laid off or something like that, or, department closed, or maybe you had a crazy boss, but you don't really want to talk about that. And so you want to skip over, kind of maybe why you had a shorter stint. Being able to tell your story is so important. And so take the time to kind of outline, here's the flow that we're going to go through. And so when you come into that situation, you already know the flow and the narrative that you're going to be sharing with that hiring panel. And spotlight, of course, the highlights. Talk about some of the accomplishments at each stint. Here's the strength that I really used at this particular organization. It was a nonprofit, and one of the things I ever really, one of my strengths is being able to connect with people. And so at this job, I raised over $1 million for our foundation. And then, I felt like I had reached my pinnacle there, and so I decided to look at commercial business. Figuring out how you want to transition from career stint to career stint will be really important and key. And then talk about what you were proud of at each location, at each post. Maybe what did you learn from that situation? What did you really like at that company? That's a great way to figure out if there's a fit for you at the company that you're interviewing for. To be able to also talk about the culture. I was at XYZ company, and one of the things that I really loved there was just the engagement that we had from all the team members. And one of the ways that we did that was that we had off-sites. Does your company ever do anything like that? Or how do you all engage with employees? So using your story to also ask questions and to create kind of that dialogue back and forth is so critical. So I cannot underemphasize the importance of learning to tell your story and becoming really comfortable with it in a way that is fluid. And then just wanted to share with you all, what the hiring manager really, really wants. And the hiring manager really wants to make sure that there's not going to be any drama. And so no more drama. Because there's already going to be complications and issues in any job, in any setting, in any workplace. And I always say that the complications are never the work itself. It's usually people and personalities, and what we sometimes bring to the workplace unknowingly. And so those tend to be the obstacles and the challenges. And so your hiring manager wants to know that you are going to be someone who is a fit. And we've all heard this word. and we wonder, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a fit? And it means two things. One, to be a culture fit with the organization, so the overall company and what that company kind of stands for, how they operate, their culture, of that company. Are they big on winning and celebrating, or is it more of a kind of laid-back culture? Those are the things that you're going to be asking questions about also in your interview process. So that's one of the culture fits. And then the other one is specific to your local team, right? So are you a fit with the team and the personalities that already exist that you're walking into? And so this is where that pre-wiring could really help, because maybe you've been able to talk to some of those folks on that team already. And so that would be an indication that you could easily and seamlessly fit into that department culture. So it's so important to kind of ask also, what is the team like? Are there any challenges? Have there been any organizational changes that have impacted your team? Is there something you really like about how your team operates, and something maybe that you'd like to see be impacted or changed for the better? Asking questions like that can also show a certain level of situational awareness that you have of team dynamics. And most importantly, I think that, folks want to make sure that they've got a collaborator, so you're going to be able to collaborate with your peers, and you're also going to be able to lead when you need to as well. And you're going to be able to manage and work in challenging situations. So any examples that you have to demonstrate that, I think many interviews ask, how do you deal with challenging situations or difficult people? And that's just a part of life. And so learning to have that positive attitude and learning how to nudge and influence people is so important, particularly when you're talking about being a part of fit and culture fit. So that's really what a hiring manager wants. And they listen to their gut. They don't want to have someone who maybe has a lot of buts, or you don't see kind of the positive side. You don't see the glass half full. You see it half empty. So making sure that you've left any type of negativity outside and you're only bringing in positive energy is a really solid way to make sure that you win in the area of fit. And then competence. Obviously, competence, being able to execute and do the job, But I always say if you've gotten the interview, competency is not what you're being interviewed for. You're being interviewed for primarily, are you a fit with this team? Because if they have brought you in to be at that table, they already know by your resume and your credentials that you can do this job. It's just, do we want to have you do this job for us? So that would be my final and most important point there as to what the hiring manager wants. And then making a connection with your hiring manager and with the team that's hiring you and talking with you in that interview, if it's a panel, taking a step back, getting to know that person if you can, being observant of what's around you. Are there any points of connection? Did you do any research maybe to find out on LinkedIn or through any type of social investigation, what they're interested in? Having some banter, having and letting down your hair and making a connection, human connection is what it's all about. You're at work so much, you want to be with people who you enjoy. And so showing that you're an enjoyable person and making connections, whether it's through sports or, children, hobbies, interests, whatever it is, make sure you don't come off robotic, but you become engaged and collaborative. It's so important. And just this quote here, great communication begins with connection. And so from Oprah Winfrey, of course. And it's so true, right? So good communication, it does begin with connection. And so that's kind of one of my theme words for 2020 is making better connections with people. And it's something that I think we can all continuously work on is engaging with people and getting to know them kind of more personally and more deeply so that when we do have challenges, they are open to moving past those obstacles. And being human, being relatable, and ultimately being you is really what it's all about. So remembering to make that spark for that connection is so important. And then finally, closing for the win. That's what we want, right? We want that offer letter, and we want you to be in the driver's seat of negotiating that offer as well. And so one thing is to ask for the job. You know, a lot of people leave it into the hiring manager's hands to give them the job. But have you ever thought about asking for the job and closing in that interview? And so what that might look like is, for example, you know, you're at the end of the interview process, you see it winding down, and asking, you know, based on what I've shared with you, Diane, you know, is there any hesitation that you have that I would not be a good fit for this role? May I address that now? You know, leaving no room for doubt that you are the right candidate for that position. Or something like, you know, based off of what I've heard from this position and what you've shared with me and the strengths and the talents that I bring, I think I would be a great fit for this role. Do you agree? You know, asking that. And you will hear from that person. Is there hesitation? And then maybe you can address that hesitation. Or that also could be an indication that it's not the right opportunity for you and that you don't want to be there, right? You want to be someplace where they're going to be excited about you for the things that you will bring to that team. So think creatively about how you can close and engage in that closing conversation. And then asking, you know, what are the next steps? What can I expect? Can I expect to be moved on to the next round of interviews if there's a second or a third round of interviews? And so then you also have an indication, you know, yes, I'm going to be moved on, or no, I need to still keep looking, or maybe this isn't, you know, moving in the direction that perhaps you thought you wanted. So those are some things to really think about. Closing does require some practice to get comfortable with it, because a lot of people have not done that before, and you want it to come off very smoothly and confidently, but also in a natural way too. And you can see by how I just shared it with you, it can be very seamless, it can be very comfortable, and even engage a deeper level of conversation. And I think that it leaves hiring managers with a feeling of, wow, that person, you know, is somebody that I would want to engage with. And that person knows how to influence and knows how to ask for what they want. So try it for your next one. So with that, I just want to thank Diane and Urban Wealth Management for giving me this opportunity to share some of my best practices through my career tenure. And if you all ever have any additional questions, you can reach me at hellorichblackwoman@gmail.com, where we provide other more coaching advice and career tips. We've got a lot more. I didn't share them all. Now can't give out all the goodies. But Diane, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. I thank you, Yasmeen. That was great. I have one question which comes up, I think, a lot. So many interviews nowadays, you know, assuming you get to the interview space, which is a whole algorithm nowadays, but you get to the interview space and the interview is so frequently, even with the hiring manager, it's virtual nowadays, right? I mean, you can be living in San Francisco and the teams can be in LA and North Carolina and Dallas and, you know, the whole team or the hiring manager, and you never really meet anyone in person anymore. And so do you have any tips to help people get through that? It just seems like, you know, my experience in group interviews are always tough, or phones or whatever, but now it's just crazy. So any thoughts or ideas to help people get through those types of situations?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is so contemporary now, right? That's kind of our new normal and doing these differently. So one of the things I would say, whenever you're doing something virtually, it's a little bit harder to do that connection, right? So you've got to work a little bit harder. So I would definitely say pre-wiring your interview would be particularly important. Also, I would say bringing a lot of energy to the interview, so whether it's by phone or if it's like video like we're doing right here, making sure you're kind of putting on what I call a performance, right?
Right.
Sometimes I've had conversations with friends and I'm like, yeah, an interview is like a performance.
Yeah.
It can be exhausting, right? Like you're an actor, right?
Right.
You're putting on a performance of your best self. And so you need to be revved up. You need to be focused. You kind of need to be hyped up, like, yeah, I can do this. You know, if you need to get your power posing on, if you need to put on your favorite jam right before, you need to create some energy so that when you're coming to that, you're really excited, you're really pumped up, and you're communicating that through these waves, these airwaves, because it's harder, you know, particularly phone interviews when people can't see you, you know.
Right.
So you've got to work a little bit harder to be pumped up. Think about also your environment too, you know, like staging, right? Like now you got to like stage your office
right.
and have everything like perfect. Seriously.
Yeah.
So think about what's in the background. You know, create, you know, the ambiance that you want. Think of it like this is actually a point I was going to make and you just brought it up, which is really awesome. So like staging, like your advanced team, you know, when I talked about pre-wiring, it's kind of like you're sending out, you know, again in politics, I don't know why I'm talking about politics so much, but you send out an advanced team that goes out before the first lady, the president, whoever, the senator, and make sure every detail is appropriate and right? So that's kind of what you're doing. Right. But yes, very good question. I feel like it does require a little bit more work and thought. So plan ahead, make sure you got enough time to set up and stage and practice, you know. You know, do some vocal warming up.
Right.
Know, seriously, like la, 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 you know.
Because don't let that be the first conversation of the day, right?
Right, exactly. I've made that mistake, and I've had frog voice, and it's like, oh, I really sound a lot better than this. At least I think I do, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. This has been great. I know our community will just love it. Thank you all for downloading and joining us today. This is, again, part of our Smart Women Saving Money program in our community, and we really want to create a space where women feel comfortable, they feel confident. We do webinars about money and finances, but we also do these events regarding lifestyle because, you know, we know you have to work, we know you have to speak, we know you have a lot of things going on, and it all fits together, and we especially find that with women. So please pat yourself on the back for taking the time to listen to this. I'm a big advocate of all of us giving ourselves a break sometimes and just patting ourselves on the back when we do something that's for ourselves. So please take the opportunity to do that. I am absolutely your biggest cheerleader, and join us in our next broadcast, which, well, this is our March, and so look for us in April. So thank you, Yasmeen. Again, thank you so much for joining us. This has been super great. We're very appreciative.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.